Hi, everyone. I'm Manouk Akopyan, and I am joined by UFC President Dana White, who is preparing to produce UFC 270 at the Honda Center in Anaheim and live on ESPN Plus pay-per-view. The card will be headlined by a pair of world title fights featuring heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou against interim titleist Cyril Gane, and as well as a trilogy fight between flyweight champion Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo. Dana, this is the first fight in Southern California in nearly 3 years and since the pandemic started. Why was this the best time to bring an event back to Southern
California?
Timing
just worked out on it. That's it. Obviously we haven't been there in 2.5 years. So to finally get back there, and especially with this card, the record at the Honda Center is the Rolling Stones, $3.5 million gate. We beat that record. This gate's $5 million, sold out, $5 million gate.
I remember I was sitting cage side the last time you were there. It was another heavyweight fight with Stipe Miocic and Daniel Cormier. Obviously, the title changed hands that night. Here we have another very intriguing fight. The titleist who never lost it and the interim titleist who is this undefeated upstart who is a tour de force right now. There have been a lot of impressive runs to start careers in the UFC. Where would you rank Gane, having beaten the likes of Derek Lewis and Junior Santos to get here?
Yeah, when you look at this fight, with the drama that's surrounding it, with Francis's contract, the bad blood between these two coming from the same camp with the same trainer. And then you look at the fight itself, right? You have Francis Ngannou, who is the heavyweight champion of the UFC. He's on a 5-fight win streak, 100% knockout rate. Cyril Gane, arguably the greatest technical striker in the history of the heavyweight division, undefeated. And, it's not like you have some guy with knockout power facing some jiu-jitsu guy, so he's got to try to get him to the ground. These are two high-level strikers in the heavyweight division who are going to bang it out on Saturday night to see who is the true heavyweight champion of the UFC. Doesn't get any better than this. Vince couldn't write a better story. It's going to be a fun night.
I know you love boxing, and the heavyweight division runs boxing, and we saw how Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder, they had the fight of the year last year. And when there's a good heavyweight fight and there's action, everyone stops and watches. Does this fight even go past the first round? Like, how are you seeing this? I know Ngannou's even a slight betting underdog, believe it or not.
Yeah, I know. I actually just found that out a couple minutes ago. Yeah, it's interesting. It just goes to show, what the odds makers think of Cyril. So, this is a 5-round fight. This isn't a 3-round fight. Francis has a ton of opportunity to land that big punch. And I don't know. It's all of these things that you mix in the pot are what makes this fight so awesome.
Right. And, Francis has been stuck on the sidelines ever since he stopped Miocic. And frankly, he and his team, the biggest fight that they've been picking is with you.
Yeah.
With that one fight.
I've been going through this for 20 years. You know what I mean? If you look at it right now, we have about 750 fighters under contract. There's always going to be an issue somewhere with somebody. And this is no different. I've been dealing with this stuff my entire career. So go ahead.
That being said, how do you unite, and what are some of those contractual constellations that are still being discussed?
I have no idea. We'll see how this thing plays out on Saturday, and we'll go from there. He and I ran into each other a couple weeks ago at a restaurant. Literally, our tables were right next to each other. And Francis and I have had our moments, in his time here at the UFC. But we had a good talk. It was a good conversation. Needed to happen. The universe made it happen. And I don't know. We'll see what happens after Saturday.
How do people run into Dana White and Ngannou at restaurants? Through open table, or we got to go through other channels for that?
Did we what?
I'm just making a joke. I'm saying, how do we run into you and Francis at restaurants? We go through open table, or we got to go through other channels?
This is great. Probably the nicest restaurant in the world. No shit. The nicest restaurant in the world. Delilah inside the Wynn. It's incredible. And I've been addicted to that place. I've been going there all the time. And literally our tables were right. We got up. We talked for a while. We had a good conversation. And, we'll let this thing play out and see where we end up.
Well, and obviously the heavyweight picture in the UFC, it's been kind of hanging in the balance there for a while. And one heavyweight actually who's still waiting for his shot to even make his division debut, of course, is Jon Jones. So what's next for Jones, and once the true heavyweight champion is crowned on Saturday?
Yeah, I think he'll like the rest of us, he'll be sitting back watching to see what happens on Saturday night and how the whole thing plays out, and then he'll make his decision who he wants to fight next.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, the big thing with him is staying out of trouble and making sure his head is on straight. What are the conversations you've been having with him, and how close do you think he's actually close to even a return?
I don't have conversations with him about that anymore. That's on him. This guy is an incredibly talented human being, has had a million opportunities, in his career. And, a lot of people are excited about the possibility of him at heavyweight. So we'll see how he does. We'll see where this thing goes, and we'll see how he does.
And, let's talk about the other championship fight on the card. The brawls between Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo have both been barn burners. How do you see this trilogy fight playing out?
Ask me that question again.
No, absolutely. I'm saying the other championship fight on the card, the brawls between Brandon Moreno and Davison Figueiredo have both been barn burners. How do you see this trilogy playing out? And quite frankly, with the star appeal in the division not being as glamorous as me, are these guys just going to fight each other for the rest of their careers?
I disagree. So Brandon Moreno is actually a huge star for us right now. You're going to know it on Saturday night when this kid walks in the arena. And, when we do appearances and things like this, Brandon Moreno kills it. The first Mexican-born UFC world champion, and obviously his last couple of wins, the way he's won, and Figueiredo is in nasty shape. I just saw a picture of him. One of the guys pointed out to me. He is ripped to shreds, taking this fight seriously. So that should be a very fun co-main event.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you misunderstood, because I definitely, Moreno is a star. I was referencing the other players in the division and whether or not you would just keep maybe even having a fourth
have these two fight each other 15 times. Yeah, but there's a lot of good talent in that division now. That division's been rebuilt. Straight killers now in that division, so there should be a lot of fun fights coming up.
Mm-hmm. And as I was preparing some questions, I came across that it's actually against the law to do an interview with you if I don't ask you about Jake Paul. So with that being said, I know he's been a thorn on your side, but you've been a guy throughout the years who's welcomed competition. Do you see a welcome addition to combat sports? And
he really hasn't been a thorn on my side. I don't hate the guy like people think I hate him. He's out there doing his thing. He's a young guy who's got some, got a fan base, and he's trying to make some money. I don't ever fault anybody for that.
Mm-hmm. And, he's also injected this new enthusiasm about these crossover fights by obviously beating former MMA guys. And, UFC stars are increasingly calling for these crossover careers as well. It's been a while since we talked about it. Is Zuffa boxing still a priority in any way? And what's the solution are you offering to fighters who are seeking boxing matches for their own personal satisfaction?
That's a tough one. Obviously when there's this underground swell from the fans and the media, and the thing builds up into something like Mayweather versus McGregor was, you saw how that worked out. I ended up doing it. But I haven't seen anything that big and that crazy since.
Mm-hmm. But is that something that you're perhaps strategizing to make these fights possible, even if it's under the UFC
I'm
banner?
doing fights every Saturday, man. On Saturday night, I have the best heavyweight in the world versus the other best heavyweight in the world. I have the best flyweight in the world against the other best flyweight in the world. And I have a ton of up and coming talent. That's what I do. That's what the UFC does. If there's a fight that could be made with some of this other stuff that's that big that my fans really want to see it, I usually do it.